Welcome back to the Say What podcast.
I'm trying to get hyped up.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
He's
It's
tired.
a Say What podcast. You'd think that we wouldn't be tired when we do the podcast, but normally this guy wants to wait till the very end of the day, like almost the sun going down.
I'm not tired.
Don't let the sun go down on me. But you always do. So, he was tired last time. I'm not tired this time. I'm trying not to be.
He is tired this time.
This is Say What podcast. Now we're like in week, what is this, like number 6? Like number 7? I'm getting word from our audio. It's more than 4. This is week 4, but the podcast is like 7 weeks old.
Yeah.
6 of them.
5th in Whispers.
5th in Whispers, but we had more than that.
Yeah, we've had 2.
Glad to see our audio and visual and
They're on top of the game.
so not math majors.
JT's back there holding up numbers. I don't even know.
JT is our audio visual team. So when we talk like that, it's like, there's one guy.
Behind the camera, doing it all.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing it all.
But here we are, man. You had a good sermon again this week. Had an awesome service.
Yeah, it was a great
2
service,
man. Talked about sex this week.
We did.
So what's up with that?
You tell me. You just got married.
I did. And it is great.
See, I flipped that right there. Here's the deal, man. It was a great service, and we did a baby dedication, did all that stuff, but really we wanted to focus on sex and what the Bible says about it. And I was worried about it. I was worried about talking about it because it's it's a weird issue for people. That's why we whisper about it. But we want to look focused on marriages and sex within marriage and what it looks like as far as to be healthy and sexual health and just in your intimacy with one another. And there's so many elements to the sex kind of talk.
Yeah.
You have students you can talk about purity with and saving themselves to marriage, abstinence, and those kind of things. You got folks that are going through bad relationships, and you got folks that have been abused. You got all kinds of the gamut for, talking about sex is just huge. So we focused in on marriage and kind of went that way, and it was a good service, I think.
Yeah. So you got all these different avenues of people talking about sex, so you see on TV and movies, and you get your parents that are going to probably have to talk with the kids, and you got all these different ways.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, man, I'm almost 40 and I'm not comfortable at all sitting around talking to my parents about sex.
No, I'm talking about the talk that the parents give.
Can I just say this? I know this is the podcast, and I'm going to get into the spiritual elements. And there's certain things now that I'm getting to age 40, I start looking and putting on my radar to don't do certain things when you get older, right? Because my kids just turned 13. There's coming a day where they will be married, and then I will be the grandparent, and Maverick, Malachi, Mason, Mahala, Memphis, whatever, will be over at my house, and I'll be 60, 70 or whatever, hopefully if I live that long. It is so uncomfortable being a young guy and having your parents talk like that. It's you never get over it. When you're 13, you hear things there's certain times that me and my wife might say something, or there's a topic that comes up, and they're Memphis or Mason this week knew we were talking about sex at church, and so he was in the car. He's a 7th grader, and he was like, "Dad, can I go with Tyler during church?" And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "I just don't want to go." And the boys were like, "Tell him why." And he was like, I just don't feel comfortable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, you never outgrow that.
No, you don't. I remember when my dad wanted to have that conversation with me. I still remember where we were, what was going on. It was terrible.
Well, they're it'll be good for you, right?
Yeah.
You don't want, other people talking to you about that before you know.
Yeah.
The birds and the bees talk and that whole thing. But then your parents talk to you about it, and it does serious damage.
Yes, it does. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to be sitting there listening to your dad or whoever talk to you about that.
And then the next time he's like, "Hey, we need to talk." You're like, "No, please, God help us all." No, I learned way too much that time.
All right, so why do you think it's important to talk about it in church? Why did you want to talk about this seriously?
I wanted to talk about it in church because, all the kidding aside, and just kind of making jokes, but all kidding aside, if the church doesn't come alongside of the community and our world as a whole, and begin to invest in the understanding of what the Bible says about sex and sexuality, we're going to let our world just continue to implode. And what we're seeing is more and more adults that are having major issues with sex, normally outside of marriage because of what's going on inside of their marriage, so they're having these problems outside of their marriage, or you have adults who are singled or widowed or divorcees or whatever it might be, and they don't know how to control themselves. But overall, you don't even have to follow any of those categories. If you don't get a handle on sex, sex will get a handle on you, and it will change you, and you will do things that you swore you would never do. You'll go places you swore you'd never go. You become something you don't even recognize. And so we have to look at what Scripture says about this beautiful gift of sex. I mean, I think we both would say, man, it's a gift. Yeah. And God was doing some pretty great work when He invented that. And we're all thankful for it. But if we don't come alongside and say, how does God view it? Why did He create it? Why did He give it to us? And what are those boundaries? If we don't put those in our life, it will take over. And it's funny to me, and here's where my real struggle is it's funny to me how we want to help kids and students become educated sexually so that they put boundaries on that so that they would be protected, right? We have a whole mess of stuff just called protection, right? When you think of sex, you think of protection. But what we do then is we step outside of that, become adults, and adults are just completely brainless when it comes to this and go, I can handle it. I ain't worried about it. But it's creating some major issues for them. So that was my heartbeat, is let's come together as a church, look at sex, and this talk this time is in the parameters of marriage. What's it look like healthy? What can happen when it's not healthy? And that's where we went, man. And I think it's important that the church rise up and really take a hold of that. Otherwise, the church is on its heels trying to deal with folks that are suffering because they couldn't get a hold of sex before it got a hold of them. So there's healthy boundaries that you have to put in place. And one of those boundaries that God put into place to help us with sex is marriage.
That's good. What scriptures did you use for
1 Corinthians chapter 7 was my main text. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, 1 through 7, Paul's writing, and he's writing back to the people of Corinth, and this is on our video. You can watch the online sermon. It should be there. It's from our 11 o'clock service. And we had a lot of folks here this Sunday. I mean, people come to our little spot in rural Tennessee that we love so much. We've got the lakes, the sunshine, and I mean, it's great to do life here. Yeah. There's not many of us down here, but the ones that are down here, you know how wonderful it is. It's just kind of like a little hidden secret of Tennessee. But then you turn around on Sunday morning, and we had almost 800 people here.
It's awesome.
I mean, 800 people come here, and they do. And so we were here, and so we began to look at this, and I went to Corinthians and started talking about that to the church. And one of the things I wanted all these folks to know is Paul had received a letter from the people of Corinth, so he's readdressing it. And one of the things that they're talking about is how do you handle yourself. And one of their misconceptions is you can separate what you do in spirit and what you do with your body. And if you can live within that kind of theology that what you do spiritually does not matter what you do bodily, or your body does not mess with your spirit, boy, that's a great place to be. Right? Because now I can do whatever I want to spiritually, and then I can do whatever I want to with my body. And
whatever effect.
Yeah. And you say, well, what kind of? He's a good dude. He did this, this, and this. But what about all this? Don't worry about it. That's just his body. So his body can do whatever he wants to with it. And Paul writes and says there's a couple things you need to know. These two things work together. And then he starts talking about husbands and wives and marriage and sex. And one of the things that he says right off the bat is, I would just like to say it would be better if a man didn't touch a woman. And it really kind of the door he's opening is sex and relationships and intimacy are powerful. That's why some of y'all watching this podcast, somebody shared it with you. You don't know where Kingston is. You don't know who Phillip Martin is. You don't know who Tyler is. You don't care. But you're listening to this today, either A, because you think we're kind of slightly funny, or it's been interesting to you, but you're there and you're in a bad relationship and you're having a hard time getting over it. Or you're remarried, and one of the things that your new husband doesn't know about you is you're struggling to fully accept him, and privately you compare him to your other husband or to your other boyfriend or whatever by the way that they handle themselves, the way they talk, what they do, whether he's lazy or he's active or whatever. And what Paul is saying is, guys, I would rather you never even touch a woman. Or, ladies, I'd rather you never even touch a man, because once you get into a relationship, your life changes forever. You can't ever go back. And then he goes, but if you're going to get married, he said, one of the ways that we handle that is every man has a woman and every woman has a man. It's called a husband and wife. And he says, and with that, you do not own your body, your spouse does. Husbands have authority over their wife's body. Wives, you have authority over your husband's body. That's a pretty beautiful picture that when you come together as husband and wife, you're one. Her body is mine, and my body is hers, right? But think about marriage. How many times you get mad at each other, and the first thing you do is you take yourself away from that other person.
Yeah.
Take my body away. Now, I mean, you're not thinking I'm going to take my body away from her, but you're thinking I'm going to take me away from her. And when you start separating yourself from each other, it has a profound effect on you emotionally, mentally, physically. It has a profound effect, and it really affects the marriage. And then that's when he goes and he says this. Paul says this to the married people: stop depriving each other. Stop depriving her or depriving one another from each other. You should be. Here's what he says, and this may catch some of you just off guard here, but just let me say it. Paul says this: if you're married, that's your husband or that's your wife, in those confines, you should be having sex. You signed up for that, And it's not as bad as you might think. I mean, if you're sitting there going, I don't want to, it's a pretty great thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're newlywed. When did you get married?
A year, July 30th, I know it.
Yeah, July 30th?
Year,
yeah, so a little over a year. Hey, sex is cool, right?
Yeah.
So when Paul says that to a newlywed, you're not like, really? You're like, we got it.
Yeah,
right?
we're good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go. So, but a lot of married people are like, man, no, I'm mad, I'm hurt, he betrayed me. It's not the same. Their body has changed. We have kids. I saw that line from old Ed Young Jr. It said, kids is keeping intimacy at a distance successfully. That's what kids do. Keeping intimacy at a distance successfully. There's all these things that come into your life, and then all of a sudden, I read a post the other day from a former student pastor of mine who raised me up, and he said, do you know how long the average married couple with kids has together every day? How much time?
I don't know.
4 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
A day. 4 minutes. Just them. Just me and her, or just him and you. 4 minutes. That's an average. So these couples are having these things. So when you finally get to one another, you're tired, you're mad, you're hurt, you're broken, you got all these things. But it's having an effect. And here's what he says. And stop depriving each other, because unless, the only exception is if you're going to be praying. Right? Well, the last time she told you no, man, was it because she was praying? Like, you were thinking, hey, this would be a great time to reconnect. And she goes, sorry, you caught me in my prayer time. My sexual life is down the tubes, but my prayer life is through the roof. Said nobody. And so that's the only exception that he gave. And then he says, but you need to get back together as soon as you can. That should only be for a short time. And here's the big kicker, is because Satan, you'll use that weakness in your life, the sex that you're not having, emotionally needs that you need, physical needs that you need, not being met in a marriage. I'm mad, so she's getting punished. I'm mad, so he's getting punished. We deprive each other. We take our body from one another, even though it belongs to the other one. And then Satan comes right in and goes, can you believe how she's being? You don't need her. There's plenty of women out there, man. What are you doing? And he comes right in and says, can you believe that, ma'am? I mean, he doesn't even speak your love language. He's got all... And then all of a sudden, problems begin to happen. He says, for all these immoralities, if you're going to be married, you need to be having sex. So that's kind of where we were, and that's why it's important, is we gotta address those things.
Yeah. I got to see your notes, obviously, beforehand. Yeah. I didn't get to sit in service because you had me with the middle schoolers. I
did. We had our middle school students step out. Hindsight, they probably could have handled it, but I just didn't want to start a conversation that parents weren't ready to have.
Yeah, no, it was good. We had a great time with the middle schoolers. But I got to see it, and you kind of listed out different benefits there are to having sex, both emotionally and physically. And you've kind of touched on the emotional side effects and the physical effects that it has on your body. What are some of those?
So, sex has major benefits. All right? You know that.
Yeah.
And you being a newlywed, I didn't let you make out the list.
Yeah.
Because I figured your list would just be short and sweet and to the point. But there are some benefits. So when you start thinking about sex and you start thinking about, having sex in marriage and being intimate and close to one another, there are emotional and physical benefits. Maybe some of you guys are going, hey, I need to take some notes. The next time I'm trying to reconnect, I can hit her with the, well, it's emotionally good for you because of da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? So I really want to give it to my men and women here for just so that they would know, because here's what we found. Facts about marriage. The average married couple has sex 98 times a year. Now, if you're newlywed, it's 111 times a year, right? And I had several men that walked up to me after service and said, I don't know who made up that survey, but they're dead wrong. They didn't say which way. But I'm assuming that they're probably saying that's a little bit of a high number. I don't know. That's probably what they're saying. But the average couple has sex 98 times a year. Now, 57% of married couples say they have sex at least once a week. So over half say they have sex at least once a week. And then there's 4%, and here's what I said when I shared this statistic, is I said 4% are liars. And everybody kind of laughed like that in their church, because 4% of married couples say they have had sex daily. They have, they have time, sexually and intimately daily. Here's what's interesting. I made that statement and everybody kind of laughed, and I just kept preaching. But then on Sunday afternoon, we have folks that go to our church that are on Facebook, and they were just posting, I'm 4%.
I saw that too. I didn't know what it was. I looked at your notes, I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, yeah, and my wife was like, did you? What? Because she wasn't in here.
She walked out.
Yeah, so they were doing a newscast, but she said, what did you talk about 4%? And I said,
I had to
4%.
go to your notes.
And then I was like, oh yeah. I said 4% married people say they have sex daily. She goes, oh. I was like, well, why? Why would you ask that question? You weren't even in there. She was like, oh, it's all over Facebook. We've got a bunch of 4%ers at the Grove. So, anyways, that's
moving
what
forward.
So moving forward, so I was kind of shocked by that. 4%. Then it says a sexless marriage, because then you hear people, and we've had folks that are our friends or whatever that would talk to us and say they're in a sexless marriage and they're frustrated. But they define a sexless marriage as having sex 10 times or less a year, right? So that's less than once a month. And you think about being married, you're not having sex but less than 10 times a year. It's really hard to be extremely close to that person. Now, I would say this, in those cases, sometimes that is because of health reasons, physical reasons, and that's okay. But if it's just in the case of we're just doing life together or more like roommates, that's a problem. Because God has ordained, as much as we laugh, and we try to make this lighthearted, but as much as we laugh, God has created sex, and I share this for procreation, protection, right? Procreation and protection. Protection for me, for you, spiritually, it keeps me protected. I am intimate with my wife. I am close to her. I'm building a relationship with her so that I can keep all that other stuff out of my life. If you separate that, well, here's what he said in 1 Corinthians 7, Satan's going to use that. So when you think about a sexless marriage, if it's not a health reason, if it's not a physical reason, which I would say, if it is in your power to fix it, you need to get with a doctor. If it's not, it may just be a prolonged health issue that does not allow it. Then obviously you work through that. But if you're just in a marriage that's just kind of whatever, it's having an effect. One way or another, it's having an effect. Either emotionally you check out or mentally you check out, and the door's open for Satan to move. And so we needed to know that. And then here's the scarier part about the sexless marriage. 15 to 20% of married couples identify as a sexless married couple.
Oh, man. It's a big percent.
I would think so. So it's there. So when I share those, I wanted to share some emotional and physical benefits to having sex. So whether you're a 4%er, right, which we have them, or based on statistics, we would have some sexless married people, or you're somewhere in the middle and you're one of the folks that's 98 times a year, whatever. Here it is, some emotional benefits. Number one is sex, and so you're kind of building your resume here of it. It increases level of commitment. So if you're intimate with somebody, more than likely your level of commitment to that person is raised. And Dr. Pamela Rogers is the one I got all this information from. She wrote a great article for Healthline, and I just took her stuff here and I'm using it. It boosts self-esteem. So sexual relationship with your spouse boosts your self-esteem. It makes a person feel younger. So all you guys and ladies out there say, man, I just feel so old. There's a cure for that. and it's called your spouse. Sex with inside of marriage makes you feel younger. I bet you feel like you're about 12 by now. So, makes you feel younger. Look here. It lowers the level of cortisol, and it's a hormone that can trigger fatigue and cravings. So all you ladies out there say, I'm exhausted, or I really don't need to be eating all that food. Guess what?
Have sex.
Have sex. Well, yeah, yeah. You're not as hungry and
Tired all the time.
you're not tired all the time. No, you're good to go. And you look younger.
Yeah.
All right, feel younger. It lowers the feelings of insecurity. It keeps spouses connected emotionally. So maybe you feel like you're not emotionally connected, but one of the things that you've been doing is depriving your spouse of your body, of being physical with them. Well, of course, emotionally you don't feel as connected. I mean, if your children, if you never gave them a hug, they wouldn't feel as close to you as if you did, So you have the same way with your spouse. I mean, if you're never physically intimate with them, then you probably don't feel as emotionally connected. And so it helps you connect emotionally. It helps to give people a more positive attitude. Boy, you're acting hateful. We can fix that. Positive attitude makes a person more calm.
It's good.
Makes a person less irritable. The things I want to say. So it makes them less irritable. All those people you run into there. We gotta keep moving. It reduces depression, and it relieves stress. So those are some emotional benefits. Right?
Yeah, that's a lot of benefits, though.
I got a bunch of guys going to watch this podcast later. A bunch of my men, they're going to be texting me stuff about this. They're going to have every one of them written down. They're going to be saying funny things to me, and we're all going to be in trouble before this is over with. But not only that, there's some physical benefits to having sex. Number one is it reduces the risk of physical illness. It improves immunity. So you say, well, I'm just not feeling that great. There's a cure for that. Reduces pain by increasing endorphins. My shoulder's hurting. It can burn 200 calories for every 30 minutes. Again, fatigue gone, cravings gone, burnt calories. I mean, this is a win-win. Less frequent colds and flu. I can already hear you now.
I like it.
Abby's going to say, are we getting that flu shot? And you're going to say, no.
I got it better.
We got a cheaper plan this year. Lower mortality rates, reduced risk of prostate cancer, offers pain relief, including pain from migraines and back pain.
I like that one too.
Well, what's the old classic cliche line that every man says? Can't have sex because my wife has what? Headache. Has a headache. Well, proofs says there's a cure for that. Sex. Improves posture. Watch this. It gives a youthful glow.
Oh, that's cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Boy, you're looking awful youthful today. I told the church on Sunday, I said, this Sunday, if this week was good, we won't even have to turn the lights on. We'll just be
glowing,
radiating in there. Youthful glow. It reduces the risk of heart disease, lowers blood pressure, helps people sleep better. It improves digestion. Get this. Healthier teeth.
How does that work?
I don't know. You can save on that dentist copay. Just don't even go.
Don't worry about it.
Well, what we have found is sex about cures everything.
Oh, I like it. That's nice.
Healthy teeth, youthful glow, pains go away, never have a migraine, and pretty much that's what I said.
No flu, no cold.
Flu's gone. My immunity's up. Yeah.
God knew what he was doing.
God knew exactly. Positive attitude. I'm never irritable.
Yeah.
It's good. Increases the hormone that makes your skin healthier. It improves your fitness level, and it increases circulation. Now watch this. It improves memory. And I put that in there for a reason. Because every one of you ladies that is married, says, my husband can't remember anything. That's what they say, right? He can't. I told him to take the trash out. I forgot. I told him to go pay that bill. I forgot. Where's my keys? I've lost my wallet. Can't find my glasses. There's a cure for that. We can make him better for you, and he will start remembering a lot better through sex. See, I mean, if I'd have got to this part on Sunday, it would have been hilarious.
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
Right? So I know there's probably people watching on this podcast is ridiculous. But it's true. And you got to understand all these things. Now, I tell you all that these are scientific proven points, all right? And they're funny, too, because there's so many, there's just so many ways that you can go with them. You've probably been kind of laughing a little bit to yourself, but the truth of the matter is what God created as sex is much more than what you see on TV. It's better for you and greater than what Hollywood sensationalizes. And when you lose that in your marriage, when you are keeping yourself apart, you're literally having a physical effect on yourself. Now, the spiritual aspect of it is Satan's going to use that to destroy your marriage, because we talked about the immoralities that come, and I talked about pornography, and I talked about cheating, and I talked about all that on Sunday. When you're not fulfilling that or being fulfilled in your marriage, that leads to those immoralities. But then from a physical aspect, there's a great scientific side of sex that benefits. So you got these two elements that are going on, and when you are not sexually healthy in your marriage, it has a profound effect on your life. And so those are some of the emotional and physical benefits of a healthy sex life.
Man, every husband is going to show their wife this video.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I can already see it. Our Grove guys, I already hear them in whatever house they're living in, no matter what their wife says, right? My head's kind of hurt. There's a cure for that.
Every single time.
Yeah. Why didn't you take that trash off? I forgot. And then he's immediately goes, there's a cure for that. Right?
You can help me remember.
She's going to go and want to order Mary Kay to help her keep her skin youthful looking. He's going to say, no, not $35. There's a cure for that. All week, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so what are some other places in the Bible where it talks about a husband and a wife and sex together?
Well, I mean, there's several places in the Bible that talk about it. I mean, you got Adam and Eve in the garden. And the Bible says they were naked and unashamed. And we really kind of drove that point home, the fact that they were able to be themselves, fully bare and unashamed. And I made a statement. There's men and women within the sound of my voice on Sunday that are fully clothed and ashamed. Mm-hmm. And so we got to get back to that. And then, Ephesians 5 talks about husband and wife, and it's the direct reflection of Christ and the church and how that looks. And then the most interesting thing that Paul says, and this is in 1 Corinthians 6, is he starts talking about the sexual nature of humanity. And one of the things that he says that when you sin, now watch this. He says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Food is for the stomach, and stomach is for food, but God will do away with both of them. Yet the body is not for immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord is for the body. Now, God has not only raised the Lord, but will also raise us up through his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take away the members of Christ to make them members of a prostitute? May it never be. Or do you not know that the one who joins himself to a prostitute is one body with her? For he says the two shall become one flesh. But the one who joins himself to the Lord is one with him. Flee immorality. Every other sin that a man commits is outside the body, but the immoral man sins against his own body. And he says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit? And so one of the things that Paul teaches us is that there's this incredible understanding. Genesis tells us that when for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they were made one flesh. And then Paul takes a step further and says, when you are sexual with someone, you become one flesh. And the problem with this is when you become one with somebody, I don't care if it's in marriage or outside of marriage, you've become one with them. And for the rest of your life, there's part of you that is attached to them. Now, ideally, here's what would happen, is it'd be one man, one woman, one person together forever. That would be ideal, right? Spiritually speaking, that is ideal. They came together. There's nothing that comes between them. They're never separated. and they rock on through life, right? You see it all the time. People that are married 65 years, he dies, she dies. They were one, right? Unfortunately, when we don't contain sex, we begin to enter into sexual unions. And Christ said adultery doesn't just happen when you're physically with somebody, but even when you look at her lustfully, you have sinned in your heart. So when you become one, now watch, outside of marriage, before you got married, you became one with this person, 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 and all of a sudden you get married, and now you're going to become one for eternity, and you brought all these other pieces of one with you, and you weren't fully whole when you got here. Mm. And now if this side's doing the same thing, now you got all these other folks here, and they're not really whole. So now you have two people who weren't whole when they entered into a marriage that are trying to be whole together, and it's only a matter of time before even in here they separate. And when they go down that road, it is the most painful part of it, and that's why next week we're going to talk about divorce and how it affects you. I'm not piling on divorce people. I'm going to come alongside them, throw my arm around and go, look, it's divorce. There are worse things in life, but this one here has affected you a certain way. Let's deal with it. Let me help you. And this is part of where your pain's coming from. But in this particular context, what Paul says is you are one. Now, if you're one and you're never sexually intimate, you're not one. You're separated. Part of being one is being close and authority over her body. She has authority over mine. Naturally, we're going to be one. So he goes on, he finishes this out, and he says, what do we need to know about the importance of sex? And here's what we need to know. Is he had said, stop depriving one another, don't do this, you have authority. Number one is a husband and a wife must look at their marriage and sex and see that it isn't about you, it's about the other person. One of the things that Christ teaches us through Paul as he writes is we make sex about us. You get into pornography because it's about you. You want your desires fulfilled. You want to be able to see something for yourself, right? You seek out a relationship with someone else outside of your marriage because you aren't being fulfilled and you aren't happy and you aren't getting what you need, right? Sex, it has the ability, when turned upside down, becomes about me. And sex is not about that. It's about the other person. It's about me becoming one with them, about becoming intimate with them, about fulfilling their needs, about taking care of their body, taking care of them emotionally. That's what sex is about, right? And it's weird because nobody starts, intimate conversations with, hey, how you doing, honey? And I just want to take care of you, yeah? Because, women most of the time will say, well, let's just lay here and cuddle and watch TV. Yeah? So a man enters into that with a me kind of mentality. Then he's mad because she's not wanting to take care of him or fulfill his desires or whatever. Now he's mad. And we have to understand sex is not about you. I know it affects you because it is you. And it's easy to get caught up in the physical fun of it to make it about me. But sex is about my spouse. And I want to keep that holy. And what did Hebrews say? The marriage bed should be undefiled, and marriage should be held by honor by all people. There is a duty to taking care of your spouse. You have a duty in God's eyes to take care of your... Listen, you have a duty in God's eyes to take care of your spouse sexually. That's important. It's not okay just to leave them out there floundering. You are going to, if you don't press into this and go, well, we've been married 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, it's just not the same. Well, you need to work on that. Because that sex drive of that person, and this isn't just men. I mean, I have several ladies that stopped me and said, please tell our husbands this. It isn't just men, it's men and women. But that sex drive doesn't stop. So this drive that God's given you toward your spouse, if it goes neglected, that sex drive didn't say, well, let's just chill out over here until she comes back around or until he figures things out. That sex drive goes, hey, what about us? We're not being satisfied here. And eventually it's going to find somebody that will. So you need to remember, sex is not about you. It does affect you, and it's a gift for you. But realistically, this is a two-person deal here, and I want to sexually take care of my spouse. And then here's how it becomes two-way. She wants to take care of me. It's easy for me to say, no, I want to take care of you and your needs when she's saying, I want to take care of yours. That's the way that goes. But what happens is if nobody wants to take care of the other one's needs, then neither one cares. So that's what he says. Number
Right.
2 is this. You have become one. Now your bodies belong to each other. It is a gift. And remember, you made a covenant to God, each other, and to each other to share your life, but also your body. And so you need to remember that. Now, there's things that come up in marriage at different times. Sometimes you have spouses who are embarrassed by their bodies. They weren't in the beginning, but they are now. They've changed. They've gained weight. They're not feeling comfortable. You've got to address those things because it's impacting both of you. There are different times in your marriage where your body becomes a problem. And so you have to address those things because at the end of the day, that's your spouse's body. It belongs to them. So when you're depriving them, you're taking away the thing that you promised that you would give them. And that leads us to our third point. This is where I'll finish up today. And we can talk about sex at different times. We'll come back to it and address specific things. This is kind of a big hit here. But number 3 was this is what Paul said. Stop depriving one another. You need to stop it. You need to stop. Listen, ma'am, if your mode of punishment to that guy is you say, well, I'll tell him I won't have sex with him. You're taking a huge risk because it's going to do damage. And Satan, I'm not saying your husband, I'm saying Satan will use that as a window to lead your husband in a direction he doesn't want to go. Sir, if you're trying to get back at her because she's, not meeting your needs, or maybe you don't feel like she's putting forth the effort to be better in the marriage or whatever it might be, so you're going to punish her, I'm telling you, the enemy will use that as a resource to lead her astray as well, or lead her to a place of sin. So you got to start depriving each other. And, a lot of times, I said this on Sunday, is sex is the most intimate thing that a person can have with another person, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're naked and unashamed is what it's supposed to be. You're bare. There it is. When you remove that from a relationship, and there's some in here, I want to talk to you, ma'am, you have been betrayed by him, sir, you've been betrayed by her. And you're going, I just don't know how, I just can't get over it. I can't do this and that. It may take a little bit of time, but you need to slowly walk. If you're going to stay and you're going to try to work it out, the physical aspect of your relationship has to be there. Because it is the most closely knit understanding with that person. So if you're going to try to work out your differences, how are you going to do that with the strongest element of closeness taken out of the context? It would be like we're going to work on our communication without talking. I mean, how's that working for you? I mean, so we're going to work on our relationship and grow closer without being intimate. Well, you can't. I mean,
that's the way God designed it too.
That is the way God designed it. And I already know people are going to push back and go, but he hurt me. He did this. I understand. I got it. If you weren't going to stay, fine. If you were going to check out, fine. That's fine. Then you know what? Shut it down. Don't ever get close again. But if you're really going to try, you owe it to yourself and to him or her or whatever to work on that. Because God's going to use that. Remember what we talked about, scientifically proven. Commitment level goes up. My emotional closeness goes up when I'm in that. So to take that away, well, I'm going to feel dumb if I re-enter into that relationship because I don't know if he's lying or not. Why not let God be the warrior that fights for you and protects you, and you stop thinking you have to protect yourself from everything? You're not smart enough anyways. I mean, let's already look at it. Look at where you got to. So why don't we just throw it in, and here's what Peter says, cast all your anxiety on him, cast it all over there, and let's go back into this full out and say, okay, if we're going to try to be a married couple, let's be a married couple, and that involves sex too. Right? I'm not saying you have to be a 4%er, I'm not even saying you have to be a 98%er. Well, that was 98 times. But what I am saying is you're going to have to invest not only your mind, but your body in this relationship to make it. Now, there's some elements of that I want to just say, because I didn't say this on Sunday. There are times when that's not the case. And if you are being physically abused, if you're being physically harmed by your spouse, and not just the women, I'm not just talking about to the ladies out there. There's some men that are. There's physical abuse happens. It's a two-way street. I know you don't think about it. Most of us men don't think about it. There are some men who have been in relationships where it was abusive. then I would say to you, if you're in an abusive relationship, you need to get help. You need to get help. Because not only is it an emotional thing, but you need help. Your spouse needs help. And it's never okay. God never makes it okay. It's never okay, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical abuse, sexual abuse. There's never okay to stay there. God gives you a way out. And I don't want you to hear this guy telling you, no, just keep going. I would say you need to get help. But if it's anything else, and I may take some hits for this, if it's anything else, he cheated, she cheated, she's gained weight, he's gained weight, they irritate me. Gosh, people irritate, right? They do this. Any of those things God can help you overcome. And I put this in my notes. I'm confident that God can help you overcome anything in marriage. The asterisk would be that abuse that God may not want to overcome it. That may be one he wants to rescue from. But those other things he can overcome. And one of the keys to a happy marriage and a rebuilding marriage and a restored marriage is sex. God gave it to us for a reason. Not just to have kids. Thank goodness. I got enough. But for fun and for protection as well. So there's that. Sex. We'll talk more about sex later. Hopefully you've laughed a little bit. Maybe you might have even cried a little bit. I don't know. But hopefully you learned a little bit of things too. And I've said this, don't give up. And hopefully this podcast has encouraged you, and you'll go find your spouse and have sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this week we're talking about divorce.
We are going to talk. What a shift, right?
Yeah. Sex, divorce.
You know what's interesting? We've been doing this, and I do this for a reason. And people, I know people, they want to bust their chops all the time. Well, you're doing this. You only talk about this. We talk about real life issues that matter to our people. You know, a week ago I was talking about suicide, and today I was at a graveside for a young man that was in my student ministry that took his own life. And his sister was able to sit in and be a part of the service a week ago when she normally isn't. Not even knowing why. She was in there to hear it, you know. And before the week was over, her brother had taken his life. Mm-hmm. And so she was able to apply exactly what we talked about to her situation. These are real life issues. There are people that were in church on Sunday that needed the sex talk. They needed it. They might need it again. But here's, divorce needs to be talked about.
It does.
I mean, half of our people have experienced it in some way, shape, or form. Whether you're a kid that went through it, you're a spouse. Some are bitter. Some are angry. Some are mad. Some are hurt. Some people are trying to move on. You're trying to forget. You're trying to rebuild. Some of you, we only see your kids every other weekend because of the divorce. We want to talk about it. And I want to talk to a couple of different people. I want to talk to people that's never been through it, and I want to explain some things to them. I want to talk to people that's been through it and let you understand God don't hate you. He hates divorce, but he doesn't hate you. He hates divorce. You know why he hates divorce? For the same reason that you hate divorce. It might have been a way out at the beginning, but you went through it and you go, God, I hate it because it's so complicated and it hurts. But then I also want to talk to the people that are considering it. And I just want to offer some points there. So we're going to talk about divorce this week.
Be good.
I think so. It's going to be real good. So if you know somebody's divorced, you've been divorced, this isn't a week to be shamed about it. Certainly you shouldn't come to the Grove ever feeling shame. I don't care who you are, what you've done. You come on to the Grove. But especially over divorce, go call your friends that have been through it, people that are hurting. Come on in, man. We'll make room for you.
When parents that are struggling, they're considering that you know them and invite them Sunday.
So many people struggle with it. They think about it all the time. And they would say, we're this close. Come, just come hear it out. And let's see what happens from there. You better get here early.
Yeah.
We're running out of seats, bro.
If you can't find a parking spot, we'll help you out.
We will help you out. All right, man. Hey, it's been a good podcast. Listen, share this podcast with your friends. Share our Facebook with friends. Share our website with friends. Subscribe. We got people all over the place listening to these podcasts. You know, we've got people in Nashville. Yeah. We got them in Louisiana. I mean, it's silly. But we're thankful that you join us. Pass it along to your friends, family. We love you. We'll see you next time on the Say What podcast.